Chapter 5. What if one throws away a small life? The wooden sword fell into the cauldron, but nothing seemed to happen. Bai Xiaoxun let out a quiet sigh, unwilling to accept it, and opened his eyes wide, staring carefully at the wooden sword. Yet, after waiting the whole morning, nothing unusual occurred. Bai Xiaoxun pondered for a moment, glancing at the patterns on the cauldron again, then at the ashes in the stove, as if he had thought of something. He turned and went back to his room. Shortly after returning, he came back holding several more pieces of wood, similar to the ones he had found earlier in the stove. These pieces of wood were no ordinary objects in the fire stove room. He had had to seek out Zhang Deban to acquire a few earlier. As he set the wood on fire, Bai Xiaoxun immediately saw the first pattern on the cauldron light up again. The wood burned quickly and gradually went out. As Bai Xiaoxun's mind stirred slightly, the wooden sword in the cauldron suddenly emitted a dazzling silver light. Bai Xiaoxun took a few steps back. Soon the glow faded, and he immediately felt a violent spiritual aura radiating from the cauldron. He took a deep breath and stepped forward cautiously. On the wooden sword in the cauldron, a new gleaming silver pattern had appeared, identical to those on the spirit grain. The pattern gradually faded, eventually turning a silvery gray. The sword itself looked slightly different than before. Though still wooden, it now gave off the sharpness of metal. Bai Xiaoxun's eyes shone as he carefully took the wooden sword out, feeling its slightly increased weight. Holding it closely, he even sensed a chilling aura. It's done. This wooden sword has successfully undergone spirit refinement once. Overjoyed, Bai Xiaoxun held the wooden sword with fondness, reluctant to let it go. He glanced at the cauldron, thinking about what to do with it, and eventually decided to leave it where it was out of sight, unnoticed. As for the spirit grain, it could simply be eaten, but the wooden sword could not be left exposed. Bai Xiaoxun considered covering it with some dye to slightly mute the sword's glowing pattern. After tidying up, he left the room as if nothing had happened. A few nights later, he applied a special liquid he had collected over the past days to the wooden sword, making it look colorful and worn. Testing it, he saw that the spirit pattern was now obscured, no longer clearly visible, and he finally nodded in satisfaction. Over the next few days, Bai Xiaoxun adapted to the fire stove room like a fish in water, blending in seamlessly with the senior apprentices. He became familiar with every aspect of working in the fire stove room, especially controlling the fire for different types of spirit herbs. He even mastered the nuances of first and second level flames. Previously, the small pieces of wood in the fire stove room had produced only first level flames. Recently, Zhang Debun had taken a particular liking to Bai Xiaoxun, offering him more attention and care. Months passed, and, as Zhang Debun had predicted, Bai Xiaoxun gradually grew plump. He was no longer the scrawny boy who had first entered the sect. His body had rounded out, skin brightened, giving him a harmless and almost endearing appearance, bringing him closer to the reputation of Baiju. Regarding food, he had gone through several more experiences. Yet, despite his weight gain, his cultivation still advanced slowly. Eventually, he stopped worrying about it entirely, spending his days playing and relaxing with his senior apprentices. During these months, he also learned much about the Link sect from Zhang Deban, gaining a fair understanding of its inner workings. He learned that the sect divided disciples into inner and outer factions. If a miscellaneous disciple reached the third level of key condensation, they could attempt trials at various peaks. Success would allow them to become an outer sect disciple of that peak, considered a proper entry into the Link sect. However, this process was like a carp leaping over the dragon gate. Each month, only the top 3 candidates at a peak could advance. So the number of outer sect disciples per year was fixed. One day, when Keban was supposed to go down the mountain for supplies, an unexpected matter arose, allowing Bai Xiaoxun to go instead. Hesitant at first, he realized that it had been months since Subeotai had appeared, so it seemed safe. Still worried, he returned to his room to grab 7 or 8 cleavers, putting on 5 or 6 layers of leather clothing, turning himself into a walking leather ball. Still uneasy, he fetched a sturdy pot to carry on his back. Only then did he feel some sense of security, wobbling as he left the fire stove room and headed down the mountain. Walking along the secty greenstone path, he admired the magnificent pavilions and towers, a sense of superiority rising in him. Time flies, life is but a dream. These months of cultivation. Looking back at the distant village, my heart is stirred. He muttered to himself, hands behind his back, cleavers at his side. A large black pot on his back, layered clothes making him look like a tattered leather ball. Along the way, he passed many miscellaneous disciples, who couldn't help sneaking glances. especially the female disciples, who giggled quietly at his comical appearance. The laughter sounded like silver bells, gentle and pleasant. Bai Shaochun's round face flushed red. Feeling increasingly imposing, he coughed and strode forward with head high, chest out. Soon, he left the miscellaneous disciples area of the third peak. In the distance, he saw many miscellaneous disciples running excitedly in one direction. That place was the mountain path of the third peak, frequented by outer sect disciples. As time passed, more and more miscellaneous disciples rushed with excitement. Bai Shaochun hurriedly grabbed a skinny young disciple passing by. "Junior brother, what's happening? Why is everyone running there?" Bai Shaochun asked curiously. The boy frowned at being grabbed, but upon seeing Bai Shaochun's large black pot, his eyes lit up with admiration, and his expression softened. "Oh, you're from the fire stove room. You should go see too." Two of the top outer sect disciples, Ku Heng and Zhang Yide, are fighting down at the trial area. They have a grudge. Both are 6th level key condensation. It's a rare chance to observe them. You might learn something. The boy hurried ahead, fearing he would miss a spot. Curious, Bai Shaochun followed the crowd down to the base of the third peak, where a huge stage stood. The stage, 1,000 zhang high, was crowded with miscellaneous disciples. On the mountain were also many well-dressed outer sect disciples observing. On the stage, 2 young men, both in exquisite robes, clashed. One had a scarred face, the other a jade-white face. They struck fiercely, sending out loud explosive sounds. Both were surrounded by flickering protective auras. In front of the scarred youth, a small flag floated as if held by an invisible hand, forming a VAH that roared ear-splittingly. The jade-white youth darted through the air, controlling a small blue sword tracing silver streaks, agilely shouting. Bai Shaochun's eyes widened as he watched. He could control a wooden sword too, but it was no comparison to the jade-white youth. Moreover, their attacks were relentless, filled with murderous intent, leaving numerous wounds across their bodies. Though not fatal, the sight was shocking. This was Bai Shaochun's first time seeing cultivators fight, utterly different from his impression of immortals. The ferocity and harshness terrified him. Cultivation, isn't it supposed to be for longevity? Why all this killing? What if someone dies? He swallowed hard, watching the scar-faced youth's VH bite at the other. He wiped sweat from his forehead, thinking perhaps it was safer to return to the fire stove room. He stepped back, but at that moment, a loud roar came from not far away. Bai Xianxia. Turning, he saw Su Baotai, the one who had previously written in blood, grinning as he charged. In front of him, a wooden sword radiated extraordinary light, clearly first-level key condensation. It drew an arc forward, sending out a pressing spiritual force toward Bai Shaochun. Bai Shaochun's pupils contracted, sensing mortal danger. "This guy wants to kill me." Realizing this, he screamed and bolted. "Killing, killing." Su Baitai's shout echoed, causing many miscellaneous disciples to stop and stare. Even Chu Heng and Zhang Yide paused mid-fight. Su Baotai, who hadn't even touched him yet, terrified Bai Shaochun into wailing as if he had been pierced. "Bai Shaochun, if you've got guts, don't run." Su Baitai's face turned pale with rage as he chased. "If I had the skill, I'd have killed you long ago." Killing, killing. Bai Shaochun ran at top speed, like a fat rabbit, already disappearing from sight. Atop the mountain, a pavilion housed 2 cultivators, a middle-aged man and an elder, playing chess. The middle-aged man was Li Qigo. The elder, with white hair and a rosy face, had eyes that seemed extraordinary, scanning the valley below with a wry smile. "Kingo, that boy you brought has potential, enough to make the sect leader laugh. But he still needs more training." Li Kingo set down a piece, shaking his head. "The boys in the fire stove room are ambitious. That one can blend in with them. Not simple at all." The elder stroked his beard, eyes twinkling with amusement.